week, for example, doing hires constantly, then you're going to automate the hiring process from the recruitment perspective, or I don't know, like this benefit assignment, maybe that's a start of it. Okay. So that's what we have done in here. So we had a look at different business objects. We compared different data sources and we chose which business object is going to be our primary business object. And we chose a proper data source to achieve that. Okay. There is something called contextual reporting. And that's basically this. Any object that is clickable, so all of those blue things, even from the related actions of a person, the location, the manager, all of those beautiful clickable things will have this option for reporting, and you will have different options in here. The most valuable ones for you guys from the integration building perspective is the last one, report fields and values. Very often when you are facing customers and they are unsure where the data is for whatever you are building, okay, whatever integration you are building, they won't be able to tell you. But quite often they will say like, oh, hold on, we are going to this page, you know, like you click on the worker and maybe you click on the position, and we want to have in a report, come on, in a report, all of this that you see in here. Can you do this? And you say, of course, yes, you can, because you're an expert. By the way, Google on the YouTube the video, I'm an expert, I can do everything. That's basically sums up consulting world. It's a funny sketch. Nevertheless, you're looking here at the very specific position, right? It has certain values, and you can try digging through all of the calc fields to find the values, I don't know, for employee type, for job profile, and so on and so forth. Or you can do related actions, you can do reporting, and you can do report fields and values. And that will give you all of the possible fields based on the chosen object. So here we are looking at the position. So based on this specific position, all of the fields, not only the delivered, but also calculated fields with the values that they return, there you go, values that they return, that you can use from this business object. And you can see, okay, maybe this is what my vendor is looking for, or maybe they're looking for something like this, but in different formats. So then you can grab this field and you can build calculated field to change the format of this date. Okay, but this is nice if you want to have some samples. But another thing that you can do from here, for example, I was saying that the customer comes to you and like they say, oh, we want to have all of this in a custom report. Can you build this? Yes, you can. You go back in here, reporting, create custom report from here. You click on this. It's going to build a custom report for you. And you will have an option to choose the fields. All of the fields from the report fields and values. That's why it's taking so long to load all of this. Come on. There you go. And here you can choose. Okay, maybe I want this one. Maybe I want this one. Maybe this one too. And maybe that one. And then you click OK. And BBT BBT boop. You know, testing positions. It limits down the data sources for you immediately. Okay, so here you can choose, okay, I don't know, maybe the reasoning behind the report is that the company is going to look at the compensation step updates for people. Okay, so you're going to choose the data source for that, and then you're going to choose what type of a report you want. Maybe advanced, why not? Maybe there's an integration waiting for it as well. So you would have those conversations, of course, with the vendors. And then Workday auto-populate all of the fields that you have chosen and everything in it. Okay, so quite nice to see, quite good option to know about. Related actions from any blue clickable item that you see in here. Related actions, reporting, and there you have. There you have one, you have another one. There are some related reports, not that useful from integration perspective, but this one I used a lot. This one, I think if you'll be building a lot of dashboards, maybe Yeah, that's quite nice as well. So that is contextual reporting for you. And I'm going to leave that for an activity. Have a look around, use those contextual reporting items that are out there, have a look what they do. Maybe it will give you a little bit of inspiration how to get to data. This activity is on page 62. I'm going to also put it on the chat for you. So activity 2.4, page 62. That's contextual reporting. That's about 5 minutes long. You don't need to do this activity to pass the class. Okay, this is just for your information. It's not a critical thing to know. You're gonna see how the exam looks like and you will understand why. But this is just good to know from the consulting perspective. Okay. So we know how to look for different data sources, how to look at those connections between the business objects. What about the custom report? How do we design the custom report that we need? So if you are looking at the requests that will be coming to you, they will be coming from a perspective, hey, I want this list of fields and you know nothing else. Valerie, do you have a question?
No.
So start from the asking good questions. If you are being given a requirement from, let's say, from a business insider, like, I don't know, HR specialist, payroll specialist, whoever you're going to be working with, do they know where the data is? If they can point you out, maybe you have a problem with identifying 1 or 2 fields. If they can point you out and show you like, okay, you go to the job profile and then there is this field in here, then you are at home. If it sits somewhere in the system, you're happy. If they tell you, oh yeah, actually we don't track it in Workday, and this is how we give the value, and they give you some custom rule, then that's also an indicator what you have to do. So figure out where is the data that you need. Second thing, what kind of perspective do you need? Okay, do you need a perspective from the worker side or from the dependent side? Because that also impacts how you build your report. Which fields do you want in the output? That's also important, and the list of fields. How should you sort the data? Do you even need to sort the data? Do you need to group the data, for example, because, I don't know, the requester wants to have a summed up every organization, every supervisor organization with the total base paper organization. Sure. So have a look if this is needed. It's not usually not needed to group the data for the integrations. Sorted sometimes, rarely, but sometimes. Filtering. This is something very often needed for the integrations. Even though we have our data source, even though we have our data source filters, they might not be enough. Okay, so I know that we have a beautiful data source for the HCM workers index data source, right? We can choose our data source filter that would be the all employees. But what if we want to look only at the employees from Germany, and only Germany is allowed to give that benefit to their employees? Okay, that filter is not part of the data source filters. You have to build your own filters. So keep an eye on those as well. And then last, actually it's not last, one more thing to have a look at. If you are outputting the data, how should it be output in the UI? Are you looking at Excel spreadsheet? Are you looking at a chart? Do you want a pie chart? Do you want the columns? Do you want nice graphs? Should it be a worksheet in Workday? So like Excel spreadsheet thing? Or maybe you need a PDF, okay? Bird design. Who is going to be using this report? Remember that the data sources have the security restrictions, okay? Not all of the data sources are accessible by everyone. And that might be something that you might not be allowed to adjust. So keep an eye on that because that might impact the choice of the data source as well. And the last one in here in this category is who should the report be shared with. Just building the report might not be enough. You might want to share it with specific security groups or specific people even. Okay. And then last question, probably the most important one is there an existing, perhaps Workday delivered report that you can use to be a starting point for you? Okay, so that's what we did in the previous chapter when we were looking for the expenses without attachments, without the receipts. Have a look if there are existing reports that you might utilize and then just adjust a couple columns here and there. Okay, so you have seen me creating a custom report. You know that we have to provide the report name already. You know that you need to provide report name. You have to choose a report type. For the integrations, you will always be building advanced custom reports. For dashboards, probably something different, but the advanced is always an option. Your integrations report will never be temporary. It probably will be enabled as a web service, not in all of the situations, but sometimes, actually a lot. The other way around is probably less happening, that you build an integration report that is not web enabled as a web service. But yeah, you will normally tick the box, enable as a web service. And then data source. Of course, we know that we have to choose a data source. There is more data sources than you can see if this tick box is ticked. Okay, if you tick this tick box, it will show you only indexed data sources. If you untick it, okay, you have access to all of the data sources. Now, whether the data source is indexed or not doesn't impact if you can choose indexed fields for your report. The only thing that will happen is if you have an indexed data source and it is optimized for performance, you cannot use non-indexed report fields in the filters. That's the only thing, okay? So if it's a ticked box for optimized for performance and you're choosing an indexed data source, then you won't be able to see unindexed fields if you are building your report filters. Okay, what tabs do we have? So far we have seen, I think, 2 or 3. We have seen columns extensively. We have seen sorting tiny bit, where you can choose that alphabetical or logical descending, ascending. Also in the sorting tabs, you can group the data, for example, by supervised organization to provide the total amount of base pay for the organization. Filter. So we know that we can use our data source filters to get rid of some of the instances from our business objects, but you can create more custom filters, and that is the filter tab for you. Okay, so filtering will get rid of the instances of your primary business object. Subfilter, the same, but for the related business objects. It's going to get rid of the instances from the related business objects that you are referring to in your report. Then we have prompts, where we are going to have a look at shortly. And here you can configure how your prompts look like on that prompt page. You can also configure how they'll look like for the integration site. Output. This is where you can steer if you want to, for example, output just a chart or a tab, or maybe you want to have that beautiful pie chart. Okay, so this is your output type. You can enable the report as a worklet. If it's a worklet, then you can put it on a dashboard. You can also create a help text that will be visible when people are running this report. Okay, so this is where you can put that in the output tab. And then finally, the sharing option. So here you can specify list of people who will have access to your report or security groups that will be able to run this report. At least we have seen it, we haven't done much in there, but all of the weird tick boxes that you see when you're creating the custom report, for example, enable as a web service, optimize for performance, those are sitting in the advanced tab. Okay. There is more in there. For example, you can enabling the gray area of the parameters, so you can save your parameters in there. There's a few more, not really important from the integration perspective, but indeed they are there. Okay, let me have a look what I have in here. Okay, so you will start building your report in the next activity. And in that activity, you will start seeing that you can use your linking fields right there, like this, in this business object column. This will allow you to gather the fields, the values of the fields from your related business object. So what you can do in your report, you can get yourself a primary business object, okay? You can output it as a field, but from the primary business object, you can also have an instance fields that return your data. That's your related business object. If it's an instance field, like employee or like dependents, you can use those instance fields as your business object in here as a linking field. So this is my linking field. And you can then return the values from that linking field, from the RBO. Okay. Why am I showing you this? This is where we stop for now. Is there a way to get to those bottom levels? Yes, there is. We're going to talk about it when we start covering calculated fields. Okay. So I'm going to give you here 10 minutes to create a to create a custom report. Okay. 5. It's starting on page 68. And it's going to take you about 10 minutes. Create your calc field. Don't forget the green check for me when you are done. And then we're going to continue to the chapter 3.
By mistake, I clicked on OK, and the report was closed. Actually, I stuck in task one and number five. At hello.
Yes. I'm trying to find which. So you're doing task one, right?
Yeah. In task one, I stuck in number. I clicked on number four again. By mistake, I clicked on OK. I couldn't
And
move
just
to
yeah,
number.
you can just look for your custom report. If you search for the name of the report, it should show up, and then from there, let's say I'm gonna look for that report. I built it as a terrace, so I can find it. It doesn't matter. Let's say you have found your report. You go to the related actions from the report, you do custom
Got,
report and edit.
okay, got it. Thank you.
So we got a valid question. Let me just copy one of the reports. Let's go to this one. So there is a question. If I put a dependence in here, what data do I get if I put a name in here, right? Name of the dependent. Yes, there is a relationship between these columns. And what you are seeing here, is in relationship to your to your business object. Okay, so this is an employee ID of a worker. You can also have another employee ID if you put in here manager, for example, worker managers. Let's say the first immediate manager. There is employee ID field as well. Okay, and these are not going to be the same values. I'm gonna click OK here, and I will prove it to you. Okay, and I'll just test it. Okay, as you can see, this is the employee, this is the employee ID of the manager of this worker. Okay, going back to my report definition. Oh, let me edit it. So to answer your question, if your business object here is a linking field, the values that you are getting in here are from this instance. So from the manager level 1, from the dependents, let's put dependents here, dependents, in here, name, right? I think we were having name and age. This name is going to be the name of the dependent. And this age is going to be the name, it's going to be the age of the dependent, not of the worker that you have as a primary business object here. Okay. So these values are of this instance, of this object. If you want to have the correct fields, indeed, have a look at the description. So this is the age of the dependent, business object dependent. Good. This is the name of a related person for worker. Related person is also a dependent. It could be a beneficiary, it could be emergency contact, or a dependent. Question. I hope I answered your question. Perfect. Okay, do we have any other questions? Questions. Hello, if you're speaking, I can't hear it.
When I click on submit, the default values was empty. So does it mean that did I miss anything, or it was like same? Because when I click on run, and the prompt box will be getting, right? So
The prompts.
in
Let me see, what were
in the
you
prompt box, there is no value actually.
you're building here? Actually, I don't remember. Yeah, you don't. Oh, did you choose the all employees data source filter?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Sure that you have a proper data source filter, not only the data source, but the data source filter as well. Right. Okay. So that's what we have done. I'm gonna skip the knowledge check for the sake of the time, And let's start talking about those filters. We are in chapter 3. Chapter 3 starts on page 72. Okay. And both on the primary business object, that's the sort, and on the related business object, if we want to sort our related business object instances. We're going to have a look at the filter for both of this. So filter for the primary business object, subfilters for the RBOs. And this is what we are going to do. So this time Logan, okay, Logan got a request to create a report. It's going to be a report based on a worker, and we want to output it only for all active employees. So that should give us an indicator what kind of data source and data source filter we are looking at. We want to have here those columns. So we want to have a worker, their supervisor organization, location, locale. And then we want to have a related business object. And you're going to see that if you use a multi-instance field as your linking field, you will get this top level extra column name. Okay, it's okay. That's how it's supposed to look like. If it's a single instance field, I believe you're gonna see it here on the locale. Even though there's an instance field as a related business object here as a linking field, we are not getting this top level. This happens only for the multi-instance. Now we're going to output from our expense report all statuses. We're going to get the expense report. We're going to get the items on the expense report and the total amount of the items. Now there's a few things that needs to happen to this report. And first things first, on the primary business object, so the fields, the worker field, the supervisor organization, the location, we want to sort them. First of all, we're going to sort them by the supervisor organization. That's going to be our first level of sorting. And then once we have sorted out our supervisor organization, we want to sort out the people in those organizations. Okay, that's why Boris happens before Carol, but Salim is on top because he belongs to a different supervisor organization that happens to be before consulting. So this is going to be our first level of sorting, supervisor organization, and this is going to be our second level of sorting. Then on our related business object, on our linking fields, we want to sort all of the expenses of the people by their total amount, and we want them to be descending. So if there are people, for example, like Carol here, that have multiple expense reports, we want to have the highest amount of on the top and then going down. Okay. So that's what we want to have. How are we going to achieve it? Well, first things first, like any other custom report, you need to do research. I'm going to refer to your homework again, because we're not going to be doing 3 times the same thing in our class. This is activity 3.1 on page 73. And this is choosing business object and data source. Okay, so we're gonna skip that, but Logan has already chosen her data source. She already knows what to do. She already knows how to put the columns in. Now, how do you do sorting? So on the sort column, and you have seen me doing this, you will have 2 areas. There is the sort and group and the sub-level sort and group. I don't think there is a grouping for the sub-level, but yeah, there is a sort and sub-sort. On the sorting area, you can choose only the fields that are available on your primary business object. The order of your fields will give the order of sorting. So first we want to sort by the supervisor organization and then by the full name of a person. Okay. And then of course you want a direction for both of those sorts. Then we will have sub-level sorting that is a little bit lower, and this one have one extra step. You have to choose a business object because there might be many of them referred on your integration, on your custom report, okay? So you're choosing here an instance field from your primary business object that will help you accessing that related business object field. It can be a field that doesn't exist in your report, okay? So those could be also fields that don't exist in your report, as long as they are instance fields, single or multi-instance fields. And then similarly to the sorting that we have seen above, you have a list of fields. The order of the fields dictates which sorting column happens first, and then second, the third, and of course you have the sort direction as well. And that's what we're going to do. I mentioned to you that logical order, and this is exactly about that. It doesn't make any sense to, for example, sort alphabetically the names of the months, because that's not the normal order of the months. The normal is January, February, March, April, and so on, like the chronological order. So some fields, if they are configured, they will have a logical sort order. So we're gonna go ahead and go to the tenant, and we're gonna build ourselves the report that Logan needs. Logan decided that she will start from a report called reports. Okay, and she wants to copy this report because it basically is the report that she wants to have. I'm gonna go ahead and copy it. And I'm gonna give it the name. It's gonna be called WICT RW Worker Expense Reports. Like this. We wanted to have all employees, only the active employees. So I'm gonna go with all employees, and you can see it here. The access worker as the primary business object and returns a row for all active employees. It does have the prompts for the employee type, exclude from headcount, and include terminated employees. That's fine. I don't mind that. Okay. Those were the fields that we wanted to have. Once again, I'm highlighting that we do use a linking field here for the locale. So that's a locale of the location of worker. Okay. And then we had our fields for our expense report. So we had our linking field for the expense reports all statuses. And from that linking field from that related business object, we gather the information about the expense report, expense items that are on the report, and the report total amount. Right. So that's my data. Now on the sorting, we wanted to first sort by the supervisor organization. Okay, so that's my sort right there. And then we wanted to sort it by alphabetical, ascending. So we're going from A to Z. Then we wanted, after it's sorted out by the organization, we want to sort it by full name of the worker, of course. And again, ascending, so from A to Z. We also have had our sublevel sort that is not in here. So let's add ourselves a sublevel sort. And we wanted to sort based on the expenses. We wanted to sort our amounts. So I'm going to grab my field here with the amount. And we wanted to get from the smallest value to the, from the highest value to the smallest value first. So ascending would be from the smallest to the biggest amount. Now we want to go descending. So from the biggest amount going down. That's my sort. Now I'm going to stop here. Okay. Because I want to show you what happens when you run this report. We got those prompts, right? Those prompts are coming from our data source filter. I'm going to really quickly show you something. Let me just cancel this. I want to go back to my WICT Then this one is to get to the prompts. On the prompts tab, you don't see anything in here for now. Okay, I want to show you one tiny thing before we start talking about the prompts, and that is this tick box. Sorry, not this one, this tick box. This tick box is a very special tick box. It looks like a tick box, but it acts like a button. If you press this button, you're gonna get those prompts visible in here if you want to, for example, give them different names, maybe pre-populate the values for them. These are the defaults. Okay, and I'll tell you more about the options in the next chapter. For now, I just wanted to show you that you can bring those prompts with this tick box that's a button. Okay. So let's run our report. I'm just gonna leave it blank, I think. Just leave it blank, that's fine. And you can see that we indeed got, first of all, sorted by the supervisor organization. The names of the people are second in that organization. And then if a person like Dylan here had multiple expenses, we're starting from the highest amounts and going lower, 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 lower. Oh, Dylan is some big spender out there. Okay. So that's what we wanted to achieve in here. So Logan went to the business, she shared her report, and she was like, oh my God, this is great. Can you now do one tiny thing? Because I don't care about all of those locations. If you go back to your report, when you click on the location, you're going to see, actually, I have only London here, so that's not good, but that's fine. I thought that I'm going to get more, maybe, yeah, but because there's a filter on the report, that's okay. But if you build this report from scratch, you're going to see that you're getting also other locations. So somebody from business came to Logan and said like, hey, can you give me only people from London? And I don't care about the people who didn't submit any expenses, but I do want to see if the people who submitted expenses submitted anything that's above 1,000. Okay, so we have to now filter our data. We're going to be filtering on a primary business object and on a related business object. So let's have a look how to do that. I'm going to go back to my report and I'm going to edit this. So on contrary to the sorting has only one page in here, one tab on your report definition right there. Filter has two. There's a filter and sub filter. Like we had on the sorting, we had the sub level sort. We also have sub filter. So sub filter and sub sort work for the related business object. Filter and sort works for the primary business object. Let's see our filter. This is where our location, London, is filtered out. That's why I couldn't see other locations. We're going to fix it soon because this is not going to be scalable report. But we do not have a sub filter, I believe. Oh, no, we do. We do have sub-level sort. So the requirement was that we wanted to have only the expense reports. That's why we have our related business object in here. We wanted to have only the expense reports, which total amount was greater than 1,000, and it didn't matter in what currency, right? And the second thing that was in the request, I haven't read it fully in my slide, but there was a request that we wanted to look only at the expense reports that contained an airfare. So people who are traveling along a lot. Now, while this is nice and it does fulfill kind of what we need, it doesn't fit in everything what we asked for. And you're going to see that because if you run your report, you get those people who have no expense reports. These are blanks. How can we get rid of them? Well, we're going to get rid of them from the primary business object, filter. So let's go to the filter. And let's make sure that we get rid of the people who don't have any expense reports. So I'm gonna grab myself that linking field to my related business object, the same one that I'm using here for the subfilter. Okay, it's the same field. And I want this field to be not blank. It's not empty. Okay, so I want just people who have expense reports. And this is a good practice to do because usually when people are asking for a data like this, they don't care about people who don't have this data. This might be very critical for some financial decisions. Okay, they want to see immediately the results. And that narrowed down actually the output of our report only to 95 people from London. Okay, so filter, quite important, quite good. Okay, on the filter, I clicked through it really quickly, but this is what you can do. If you have multiple lines on your filter, you can have relationships between those lines. This is this first column and or. And depending on this relationship, those conditions that follow have to be fulfilled or not. You can use brackets to group your conditions together. Of course, there's opening bracket and the closing bracket. Don't forget about closing brackets. If you forget, you will get an error message that, hey, you have unclosed bracket. Then you have your fields from the primary business object. They don't have to be indexed, but they have to be from the primary business object. Then you have an operator. How do you want to compare this value? So I want to choose a location that is on the selection list. And then you have a question, okay, where is your selection list? This selection list, okay, where is your selection list? Your selection list is a value specified in this filter, okay? And this is the selection list. So here you can list, if it's an instance field, you can list multiple instances. And if the location that returns for an instance in your output of the report has this value, the person is going to make it to the output, obviously. Person cannot have multiple locations, so that's something to remember. If you have a request that you want to have, for example, only workers from London and I don't know, New York, then you can have here multiple values because you're looking only for a value from location that is in the list. It doesn't have to be equal to the list, it is in the list. So if somebody is from London or New York, and then they're gonna make it to the output file. If you have multiple filters, you want to order your fields in a certain way. Okay, if you have multiple lines in here, filters and subfilters actually. The very first condition on the top should be a condition that will exclude from the output the greatest amount of instances from the get-go. And then, of course, smaller, 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 and the smallest, more granular. Okay. If you have a logic that excludes majority of the cases from the beginning, then your report works better, works faster, basically. So start always your filters from the condition that will exclude a lot of cases. Okay. That's what we have seen also on the subfilter. So we had to use our linking field to access the fields that we used in our columns in the report as well. We used a linking field here that do exist in our report. It doesn't have to, okay? It just makes sense to have a field that does exist in your report to be in the subfilter. And then, of course, the needed fields from the related business objects. How does it work? Why did we include that extra condition to get rid of the people who had blank expense reports? Well, it worked for us because the subfilter is actually evaluated first. So let's say we have a worker that comes into our filters Okay, it comes to our custom report definition. It comes to our filters. And first, we're going to check the subfilters. We're going to check the expense reports. Does this person has actually any expense reports? Okay, this is your condition on the subfilter. If the person doesn't have an expense report, what do you even do in this output of the report? Okay, if there are other conditions, maybe expense items equal airfare amount greater than 1,000. Okay, so we're gonna look at the expense reports for this person. We're gonna exclude everything that we don't want from this filter. Okay, this is our subfilter right there. Of course, if the expense reports will go through, so for example, the expense lines are airfare and the amount is above 1,000, okay, of course, they're gonna make it to the extract. If not, this expense report goes away. Once we go through all of our related business object instances, so through all of the expense reports for a worker, we're gonna go back to our main flow and we're gonna have a look at the filters this time. So at this point, you have a worker with the list of expense reports that are matching your subfilter conditions. If on the filter tab, you're going to include a condition that your subfilter, okay, so your expense reports cannot be blank, this worker is not gonna make it to the output. And we're gonna go back to pick up next primary business object instance. And then the same thing, right? We're gonna go back again with another worker to the subfilter. We're gonna check all of the instances. If the instance doesn't fulfill the conditions, it's not gonna make it. Then we're gonna pick up next expense report. We're gonna get through the subfilters. If it makes it through the conditions, it's gonna make it to the data. If it makes to the data, of course, we're gonna loop through all of the expense reports. And once we have the list of all of the expense reports, we're gonna go back to our main flow and check the filter. That's gonna go. And that's how the report decides what you see in the output. Okay. So that was our filter. So we did sorting and we did filtering. I'm gonna give you now activity 3.2, where you are going to do both sorting and filtering. And then I'm gonna show you prompts. So there's a timer, activity 3.2 on page 85. And we're gonna do 10 minutes for this activity. Once we go through the prompts, that's where I'm gonna end for today. And tomorrow we are going to talk about the calculated fields. Okay. So good luck, have fun on this activity. I'm gonna talk to you after the 10 minutes mark. And of course, don't forget the green checks for me if you're done.
Ola, click on a checkbox for optimizing for performance or not.
It should be blank.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, one question around it. Is there a reason why it keeps coming back? Because if it's ticked and we clear it the first time, then we choose the data source. It clicks back in by itself.
Yes, it will click back itself if you are choosing the index data source.
So we
Yeah,
need to
so
turn that off still
yes, yeah.
twice. Okay.
Yeah. Is it going? No, I got 11. You lost somewhere. See 5 green check marks. I'm hearing no feedback. I'm gonna assume that everybody is okay. I'm gonna move forward unless you have any questions.
Yeah, I have one question.
Yes.
Will we be able to come back to this knowledge check tomorrow? Sorry.
Well, about the filters. No, I'm not gonna go back to the knowledge checks, but if you want to have a look at the knowledge checks, they're always at the end of the chapter. So the chapter
Mhm.
number 2 was on page 71. This one is gonna be on 92.
Okay. Yeah, during the HCM Essentials, I found this were very useful to see how many people are on track. So I just wanted to confirm if we are doing them or not tomorrow. But
Yeah,
all good.
I'm doing them. I'm doing them if we have time. I'm definitely doing them when we have time. That's why I'm giving you guys this opportunity to ask questions now. Okay, that's also my way of checking if you are on track.
I had a question.
Tell me.
Yeah, so even if we do uncheck the optimized performance before beginning to edit the report, and then it gets automatically selected in the advanced tab. So do we have to go to the advanced tab and uncheck it again?
Yes, this is because when you are creating a custom report, even though I'm gonna just copy this custom report to show you, even though, see, like it's not ticked in here because I copied the report, but if you are choosing a data source that is indexed, okay, and you're creating a custom report from scratch, if you choose a data source that's indexed, this will tick on its own. And you can then untick it on the same page when you do create custom report, or like you said, you go to the edit advanced tab, and in the advanced tab, you also can untick that tick box. That's it. There.
Thank you.
This is only if you are choosing the data source that is indexed. That tick box, however, like I mentioned, I'm gonna say it again because maybe you missed it, and you can mouse over always over those elements in here and see what they say. This tick box, what it does is if you are using on the filter fields that are not indexed, like this one, for example, if you scroll down here, we have zeros, it's not indexed field. If I would have optimized for performance tick box, I won't be able to add this field to my report filter or subfield, that one also. Okay, that's what that tick box does. Oh, not like this, like this. All right. Do we have any more questions, issues? No questions. Perfect. Then let's have a look at the prompts, and I'm gonna go ahead and start the prompts in here, and that's where we are going to end our day for today. This chapter starts on page, let me really quickly grab my page 93 of your guidebook. And it's a really quick chapter. There's only one activity that we'll do, and then we'll start talking about the exam. No worries. So we're gonna have a look how to get our prompts and what we can do with the configuration of them. And I will explain you here why that tick box is actually a button. And I will also mention where the prompts will come from. I know we have seen it all over the place, but I will sum it up in this chapter. So working on our previous report, the business was really happy, and the person who requested the report went back and started using the report, and her colleagues noticed that, hey, you're getting these results really quickly. How do you do that? And she showed them this report. They're like, oh, can I use it too? I'm like, sure, sure, sure. And they run it, but they said like, hey, but I'm getting only London and I'm getting only airfares. Can I have this report a little bit more adjustable so I can check my locations that I'm looking after, like New York, Chicago, or other, for example, filters on the expense items? And of course, the HR specialist says, I have no idea, you have to ask Logan. So they came back to Logan, and Logan needs to deal with this situation now. And of course, as Logan is an expert in her area, she will says, yes, I'm an expert, I can do everything. So she goes back to the expense report and she creates prompts. She goes back to the report because she knows that we do have a sub-filter on the total amount, and we do have a sub-filter on the items on our expense reports. So she's going to use a comparison type instead of a hard-coded list. This time, she's going to have a prompt for a value, okay? There are two different prompt comparison types. There is the prompt the user for the value and prompt the user for the value, and ignore the filter condition if the value is blank. There's a significant difference between them because the first one, you have to provide a value in case that you want to compare the field with something. If you leave it blank, to be comparing with blank, and return only expense reports where total amount is blank. Okay, it's going to be a really hard comparison in here. So it's exact match if you use this comparison type. If you use the other one and you don't provide a value, the processor in the background will completely ignore entire row in your subfilter or filter. Okay, it's like this line doesn't even exist. And that can be useful in certain cases. We're going to have a look at them. And once we will figure out which fields we want to use the prompts for, we're gonna go to our prompts tab, and this is where the magic happens. Here you can provide the instructions how to fill in the details for the prompts that you see out there. There is our magic button here that looks like a tick box, and it has to look like a tick box because the only buttons that we have in the Workday are buttons that are saving things, submitting, or coming back to the latest visible page with data. So this is not for saving, this is not for submitting, and this is not for going back outside of this page and going back to some other page with data. Okay, we want to stay on this page. We just want our prompts to be listed. So once you tick this box, it's gonna untick itself. It will act like a button, okay? But you will get the list of all of the prompts that you use in your report. There is something that I haven't mentioned today, and that's a subtitle. You do have an option in the prompts tab to include your prompt values in the subtitle, and subtitle is basically what shows up underneath the title of your report when you run the report. So not the results, obviously, but between the results and the title of your report on top, there are subtitles that you can include or take them off. Okay. These are the subtitles. Okay, what about configuring our prompts? So we listed our prompts, we used our magic button, that's a tick box. What can we do in here? So the prompts that you have added yourself through filters or sub-filters, you can change the prompt qualifiers in here. This is kind of like a temporary field that stores the value which you use to compare with whatever filter or sub-filter you can have. Those do not exist for the prompts that are coming from the report data source filters or report data source filters, okay? Those prompt qualifiers are only coming from the custom prompts. They can come also if you have a calculated field with a prompt, it will come from there as well. You can rename your prompt. So even though on the filters you are comparing it with this field, you don't need to include this whole name. Maybe you can shorten it. You can change the name of it. And this is what will show up in that pop-up window where we are getting our launch parameters for our report. I mentioned it already when we were looking at the prompts. This is where you can choose if you want to specify a default values. So when somebody is launching the report, these are the values that will show up. And you can hard code those values by using the specify default value as the default type. You can choose no default value, so the field is going to come out blank. And there is one more comparison in here where you can choose another field to populate this default value. For example, let's say, well, we don't have a date here, but maybe you want expense reports that were submitted after a certain date, and you want to pick up everything since beginning of this month. So you would have here a specified value from another field, and another field would be beginning of the current month. And that would be automatically populated for you. So those were our prompts, labels, and the defaults. Now let's have a look at those last three columns on the right-hand side. We have three columns where we can decide how our prompts behave. The first column, that is really important one, is going to add an asterisk to the given prompt field. Asterisk at the when you are running the report if you tick this box. It also turns on a validation that if you forget or leave the value blank in here, it will not run the report at all. And you're gonna get a big red error saying, hey, we forgot to populate the value. Please add the value for this field. There is a second column in here, which we can use to hide prompts that we know that won't be useful. Okay, so maybe, for example, we don't care about, I don't know, there was the employee type, right? Maybe we don't care about the employee type. We can tick the box in here in the second column and can get rid of the employee type from those launch parameters for the report. And then last but not least, even though we had a tick box here on top saying include subtitles or include prompts in the subtitle, you can still steer whether or not you want the specific fields to be visible in those subtitles or not. You can tick the box to exclude them from the subtitles. So let's have a look how to do this. I'm going to go back to editing my report. And we had the request to adjust our filter and sub-filter. The first thing was that the location has to be not specific to London and has to be a prompt. I'm going to use this prompt for now. And then we wanted to choose different expense items and different amounts, right? So let's do a prompt in here and a prompt in here. And then I'm going to click on my magic button. I know I have already those three. That's okay. I created three new ones. If you tick the box, the other three are going to be added here below. Right there. And now I can modify everything that I can see in here. So I want to start with hiding some of the fields that we don't care about. We don't care about any of those. So I'm going to just do not prompt them right there. I'm going to have this expense items. I'm just going to call expense item. Expense items. There you go. I'm going to default it and make it airfare so that the person who originally requested this report will still have that airfare and she can still use it. Then we wanted to have that location. And I'm gonna leave it blank for now. And I'm gonna specify the amount. It was 1,000. Okay. Okay. So now that I have those, I want to make sure that we provide couple details. So I want to make sure that we have our amount and have our airfare. I'm going to leave my location for now not required. Okay. I'm going to ask you a question. If I run my report, and I'm going to run it like this with those launch parameters, who do you think, or how many people do you think I'm going to have in the output? I had 95 last time when I ran it for London. Do you think I'm going to have more or less?
If location is from the prompt and it's blank, then there will be no reports.
Okay, so we have two options. I got one on the chat that will say, that says more than 95, and I got one from Sebastian that says that we'll have nothing. Okay, let's have a look. I got nothing. Okay, and there is a reason behind it. Okay, we are filtering out on the location. What are we filtering out? We're filtering out workers based on their location. We're not filtering out the expense reports, we're filtering out workers. Every worker in your tenant has to have a physical being in the world. Okay, you have to be somewhere. You cannot be nowhere. Nowhere doesn't exist in our universe, so we're doomed only to Earth. And on Earth, you do have to have a location. Okay. Because of that, the location is a quite specific field. And what happened in here, if I go back to my report definition, and I'm gonna go back to my filter because that's where my location is. I had this hard-coded hard comparison. So I am literally comparing the location to blank. If you will ever succeed in having workers without locations in the tenant, kudos to you. Because I have never seen people without location. So with this in mind, if you have whenever you have a situation like this, that you know that there's a field that has to be populated, for example, position, for example, location, for example, supervisor organization, make sure to mark those prompts either as a required field, so either tick the box so people cannot run the report without it, or change the comparison type to the other prompt. It's going to be in all, I think. This one. Because this one, if you don't provide the value, then it's going to pick up all of the locations. Okay. This comparison type, very powerful thing. I'm going to run my report again. We're going to see that it's going to take even longer to produce the outputs. And you're going to see that I will have definitely more than 95 people. I hope that it's going to show up now. There we go. Haha, magic of Workday. And as you can see, I have more than 3,500 of workers that had, of course, expense reports with airfare with amounts higher than 1,000. Okay. Do you have any questions about the prompts and filters?
What do we mean by blank? Is it an empty string? Is it a null object? What can that be?
Here, there's gonna be null.
It's gonna be null, okay.
Yeah, for dates, it's just blank date. For instances, it's null.
Okay.
Yeah. So cool activity around the prompts. And you're gonna do the same thing. So you're gonna create your two prompts, and then we're gonna start talking about the exam. Last activity for today, guys, activity 4.1 on page 96, 10 minutes on the clock, and then we'll go for our exam. All right. Have any questions? No, that Governor is still battling the prompts, the filters. So, do you guys have any questions? Because I have only 15 green check marks. And we run out of time for the activity. Okay. Any questions? I'm gonna jump into our exam. Let me grab myself here a page. There we go. From the interview now. And this is the link which everybody should have received. I have sent you an email during the previous activity, so I'm hoping that it arrived already. If you haven't received your link to the exam, please let me know. Okay. So after today, let me tell you how your exam will look like. You have two integrations to build. There is a integration number 1001 EIB that is using a custom report as a data source. So obviously we've been talking about custom reports. Now you will be able to tackle this part. There's few things in here. I'm not gonna be talking about everything because I will be showing you this as we start building our reports and everything. However, what I want to highlight you is on page number 1, there was a report name right there, custom report name. Of course, you cannot copy paste from here. So if you have downloaded, let me grab files here. If you have downloaded yourself your class files, there are 2 folders in the zip folder. Unzip both of them. The course files we are going to reach out to on Friday, sorry, no, on Thursday. The exam files is what's interesting for you. First of all, you have list of names to copy paste. And in here, you also have the exact name for the custom report. Okay, copy paste it from here. Do not type everything in by hand because you're gonna have silly mistakes, silly typos. Don't do that to yourself, okay? If I cannot find something by searching for this field or this report name in your tenant, then I'm not giving you points for this item. If I cannot find your report under this name, you are gonna lose a lot of points. Okay, so use that file provided in the class files to copy paste the name of your custom report. Read through what your data source is and what you have to do with your filters and prompts. On page number 2, there is a little bit of information about the calculated fields. For now, read through it. You don't know how to do yet with the calculated fields, so for now, read through it and you're good to go. There is something called a report group column headings. Okay, and those are needed if you are using a linking fields, and you will be using linking. But for now, on page number 3, you have a list of all of the fields that the vendor wants you to have in the output. Here you have all of the vendor fields. This is what a sample value looks like. This is how you want to name your columns. Okay. And from all of the nodes that you have in here, for now, You can do this one. You can do this. Okay. And that's about it. The rest of the fields, especially those that have here in the exam requirements, the CF001, those are calculated fields for now. We cannot tackle them. We're going to tackle them tomorrow. And that's about it. The second integration that you have is this INT002. It's a core connector. We haven't spoken yet about the core connectors. We're going to talk about it, I think, on Wednesday afternoon. Yes, Wednesday afternoon, and we'll continue towards Thursday. Friday, there's no lecture. Okay. Do you have any questions about this? So for now, it's really simple. Just create your report, fix your data source, your prompts, your filters, have a look at the fields, check if you can add any of them, arrange them in a proper order. Create yourself placeholder fields just to put those names of the columns out there. It's allowed, and then you just replace them with proper. Any questions?
So, Ola, so the report name, should we mention just worker details for compensation or from the starting that INT, CRINT?
Sorry, say it again.
Should we give complete name or just worker details for compensation, the report name?
Oh, the report name. Report name is this.
So complete from CR2 till compensation.
It's from the CR until compensation, yes. I will be showing you the SFTP connectivity as we will start building first integration. I think that's going to be on Wednesday. For Wednesday, Thursday, you will need the SFTP. Well, actually, you don't necessarily need it, but if you want to have a look at the files that will be on the SFTP, you can.
So, just wanted to know that, when we are building this report and feeds, like when we are creating this report, if we do any mistake and like if we change multiple times, that's not a problem, right? Like
No.
no issue. So,
What matters is your final configuration. So when you will be
Fine, okay.
signing off on Friday away from the tenant, that is what I will be grading. I don't care how you
Okay.
get there. So I don't care Monday till Friday what you're doing. As long as on
Okay.
Friday on the deadline, I will go into your tenant and I can see that you configured it the way it's supposed to be.
So
Okay.
we can do it multiple times, just like if there is any modifications.
Yes, yeah, you can do it as many times as you want.
So till the Friday, so before submitting.
Yes, until the deadline. So 12 noon Berlin time. So
Okay,
3:30 p.m.
I'm actually still looking for the actual exam link. It's not in that email that sent all the other information with.
Let me see. I thought that I did send it to you.
Okay, so it's in a separate email. It's in its own.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's separate email. I sent it like, I don't know, an hour.
An hour ago, 50 minutes ago.
Okay.
Yeah, there.
Okay. Got it. Yep.
You got
Thank
it?
you.
Perfect.
Got it.
So,
Yeah, I wanted to ask if there were, please do tell us, and if they are about to be any pitfalls that basically if we set a configuration in place, we can no longer change it back. On the previous Workday course I've had, there were like 2 to 3 places where if we've pressed a checkbox, we would not be able to change it afterwards. So if we created a company with a certain name, we would need to change the name of the company to something else, whatever that would be, and create a new company with that checkbox now not ticked at all. So I'm wondering if there are any pitfalls like this in the integrations.
Kinda, I would say. Kinda, because you can create a business process. And if you don't know how to create the business process and you are going to create a new one, then you're going to have multiple business processes attached to your integration and you can have only one. But I will show you where to look for it when we will be working on the connector on Wednesday.
Cool.
On the
Cool.
on the EIB, I'm trying to think if there is something like this. Maybe the transformation type? Because this is an EIB, we will do a custom transformation, custom report transformation that will output those pipes in between and those double quotes around the values.
Mhm.
But you can modify the custom report transformation anyway.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ola, for the exam requirements, do we need to do it section by section every day, or we can do it anytime as it is convenience for us and like before the deadline?
Anytime you have time, you want to, you want to chill for tonight, that's fine. And then you can come back to it tomorrow morning, you got your time zone and start working, that's fine. As long as you will finish all of the configuration before the deadline, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna be coming back to all of this every day after the class because I think it's less of a burden if you do it little by little by little than everything at once on Thursday afternoon. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? Questions or maybe?
So this
No?
exam link will be active till Friday, right, Ola?
Yes. Yeah.
Ola, yeah,
Okay.
as we are seeing the output, you can you're sharing the screen, and that
Yes.
output is there. So this is just for our verification purpose. We don't need to send this output to you and just like show our like any
No.
events, all those things.
There is a
Not
schedule
needed.
for this integration. There's a schedule. So if I need to have a look at your integration, I will pick it up from the schedule.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, so you don't need to send me anything. If you're curious now that we are talking about the output, there is a folder here with samples. You can have a look how it needs to look like, because obviously you cannot copy paste anything from the screenshot and it's better to copy paste from editable file. So have a look also at those samples if you want to compare. I know that tomorrow you guys are gonna come back to me with question about this part, so don't worry about it for now. This is just to compare the values as they exist. Okay. Questions? Don't have any more questions. That's it from me for today. I'm gonna be tomorrow about 15 to 20 minutes prior to the class start. If you have any questions about anything from today or in general, or just want to hang out, feel free to drop by. And that's it for today from me. See you tomorrow.
Thanks much.
See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you again. See you tomorrow.
You.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Gauri, you still wanted to share your screen, right?
Yeah, if you have time, can I share?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I just stopped sharing. So let me have a look what you will show me. Yes.
Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Okay. So you have no default value for the location prompt, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Can you show me your filter? Go up, go up. Yeah, show me filter. And scroll to the right. Okay. So here you have the prompt user for the value. If you will run this report with a blank value for the location, we're looking for people who don't have location. And there are no workers like that. Okay, so you have two options in here. You either specify a default value for your prompt value. So you go back to that prompt tab and you specify the default. Yeah, and then scroll to the right. And then change this no default value. And this one, change it to determine value at runtime or specify, I think specify default value is better.
Hmm?
Specify default value.
Okay.
And this one, and then search here for London. And your report. Once it saves. Yeah. You're gonna see that the London got populated in here, and that's what you wanted to see. Oh, it still doesn't show. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me have a look.
Okay.
This is strange. I'm gonna go into your tenant and I will see if I
Or
can.
is there a mistake in the report I made, like from the beginning? Is that because something happened when I created the report?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Let me see. You are in 0.6. I'm gonna go into your tenants. And let's have a look. Shall I share my screen?
Yeah.
You can see how I'm debugging. That was wicked at the employees. No. W, report writer, maybe, no, space.